I train with Rashad. I care about him deeply. And I don't know anything about his camp at all. I'd like to think that if Rashad has been athletic this entire camp, stayed on his toes, jumping rope, doing a lot of wrestling, I think Rashad can win. I think Hendo is obviously dangerous in a lot of different ways, and everybody knows, what he's going to bring to the table. But I think Rashad is incredibly athletic and very, very quick. And I think that as long as he's been athletic this entire camp and not been trying to grind and bang, I think that he can pull off a great victory.
Do you think the majority standing up, or do you think it's got to be a good down?
I think it's going to be on the ground.
Yeah.
Well, it depends. If Rashad's been working on his wrestling and went back to his roots, I think he'll be on the ground. If not, I mean, it could be a rough night.
Yeah. That's a tough fight because you got two great wrestlers and they're both power punchers. I trained Rashad for years, so I'm of course partial to Rashad. I love Dan to death, but you got to be partial to Rashad, and it's going to be a great fight. I think that Dan's one of those guys that he looks tired all the time, but man, he just keeps fighting. He's so tough. It's like inspiring to watch him. And Rashad's really technical, great athlete, and I think it's going to be a hell of a fight.
Speaking of Joe, he said the real thing that might happen is the advantage might go to the guy who has the most power, because the wrestling is both really good. So he feels that the majority of the time they might stand up and train.
Hey, that happens a lot when you have two wrestlers fight each other. I think that they're both big power punchers. I think that Rashad's a little more technical on his feet than Dan, but Dan is just he finds a way to win. You know what I mean? He's one of those guys that everybody knows that big overhand right's coming, but nobody can stop it. So it'll be a good fight.
On his part.
Amazing.
Yeah, I think Henderson might hit him. They're both great wrestlers, so you never know. So it might be who's the more powerful puncher.
Usually when it evens out, they end up standing.
Yeah, and who's the more powerful puncher. So we'll see if who can land that heavy shot. Dan's got that heavy right hand, so I'd watch out. You'll see what happens there.
It's an interesting fight. Obviously, great friends with Dan, and Dan and I started this sport at the same time over 15 years ago. So he's been competing at a really high level. I'm very excited to see the way he's been taking care of business, and I thought he actually won the Machida fight. It was a very, very good fight. Rashad's a tough customer. I think anytime you get a guy that brings a solid wrestling base to his fighting style like Rashad does, it's hard for guys like myself and Dan, who come from that wrestling background, to deal with. I think Dan always has a great equalizer in that right hand, but Rashad's athletic. Rashad's not a dumb guy. He's not going to stand around and trade punches with Dan Henderson. So it'll be a very interesting test for Dan. I think he has all the tools that he needs. He's got to go out and kind of impose his will on Rashad, get his hands on Rashad, I think, and tie Rashad up, force Rashad to scramble, force Rashad to work from those attached positions, whether it be on the ground or in the clinch against the fence, and then land his shots when he gets the opportunity to get into that range. I think I like Danny's chances in that fight.